One day down, we've got about 3 more to go. And unfortunately for a lot of our teams, we've already sent them home. Kiernan, Maxman, or Scoundrel, should I call you to the intro? What do you prefer, mate?
I
What do you prefer?
really don't mind, mate. Scoundrel, just hit my microphone with the hand. Kiernan or Scoundrel, perfectly fine. Happy with either.
And Maxman, you got to be happy with what we saw yesterday, right? Some great Origin Series action to kick us all off.
Yeah, really fun games. I mean, we saw Renekton versus Galio mid, so I had a great day right off the bat. And I said already 50% of the teams already went home. I mean, they're already home in the first place, but it goes to show the level of competition is really high now in the Origin series.
You know, it's an old meme, but we all know the French love Renektons, so it's. I think you know Max clearly.
I'm happy. I'm a happy French guy. Okay.
Well, hopefully we can keep you 2 happy as the show goes on. But if you weren't here yesterday, first of all, how dare you? It was a very momentous occasion. We wanted everyone in attendance, but don't worry, I'll forgive you. You stick around and watch our day 1 recap.
I mean, the first day of Origin Series, I think we were surprised by the meta. A lot of the bruiser mids were something we did not expect too much coming in, but we realized after the first 2 games how strong it is, and we had to adapt throughout the day. We're a bit frustrated about falling down to the 2 brackets against a team that we have been beating a few times before, but Team Future was playing fantastic, so still gonna be positive. Like I still trust my teammates. We have a strong roster.
Another inhibitor. Very, very strong stuff. Singularity just pushing their way through. Finally comes back to the fight, but way too late.
We were caught off guard a few times today, and we have to go back to the drawing board and prepare something for the next games. You know, we have more games to play, and it's still fun to compete, but we would like to stay in the upper bracket.
And that is indeed going to be GG as they get themselves the ace, get themselves the Nexus, take the series, and continue their adventure in the lower side bracket of the Origin series.
It was really shaky for us the first day because we've played a lot of tournaments, but this is the tournament that weights the most. That means that it was really shaky, really nervous for the whole team. It wasn't an easy task. It wasn't an easy day because we have both series against Russian teams, against CIS teams, and they both did well. I hope that second day will be a bit less shaky because we already have the experience from the first day. Today we have to prove that we are the best CIS team because before all the tournaments before we always win against Turkish teams. But still, this will be really nervous, and especially our match, our derby against Trovo Nova. If we get to the upper finals, it will be really, really hard.
My name is Clemares in game. I'm playing for Trovo Nova, and I'm in Group B from Origin Series.
The towers is really strong. You have 15 seconds to go here, Max. This could be game 1.
I did not expect them to finish it this quickly. I mean, this is what the split push is coming up from Clemares, allowed to set up, and now they're just going to hammer down on that Nexus, and that's it and done. We just got ourselves our first game of the entire Origin series.
We managed to play very, very good, better than expected, because we're having a bad weeks.
They got so much time to work with here. Going to shove those minion waves in. You can see a kick comes through the flash pick there from Vex, and this will be GG's for Trovo Nova.
Yep, Trovo Nova, congratulations.
I think our key in our team is fun. I think we are playing like 5 friends together, and if something bad appears, we manage to get through it. It's always a video game. You need to have fun, and then you will improve. You cannot play a game that you don't enjoy playing.
Well, you saw from a couple of the faces and teams in that nice little recap package, but there's plenty more action going across. We had so many, frankly, different brackets going on because we have 3 groups in action right now. So let's pull up those and have a quick look at how things stand. This is Group C, and you can see we've only got 2 teams left in the upper bracket, Sunlight Team and Cut Esports. I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. We'll be paying attention to them very soon. But let's go ahead and take a look at that lower bracket because there are still some vying for progress, for vying for position. You've got GK Esports, Invictus, Off Meta, and R3D Team as well. Still going to try and find a place back up to the grand finals on Thursday. Moving over to Group B, Kiernan, you already kind of discussed a little bit about, in the break anyway, you discussed a little bit about Unicorns of Love, how there's maybe some higher expectations of this team.
Yeah, a lot of the people talking about their scrims between Unicorns Love and Trovo Nova. I think people are rating Unicorns Love a little bit higher. They think that they can genuinely beat Trovo in this matchup. I'm not entirely convinced. I think Trovo Nova are still coming as my favorites to that particular matchup. But I do think if those are the two teams that we see head to the finals, which I think will be the case, depends on how well Fast Pay Wildcats perform. They can definitely surprise that Trovo Nova will be the expected victor, but it will be a close match.
Yeah, and I actually want to lean into that even more for Trovo Nova about the fact that I talked about Clamara sometimes being a little bit overzealous in his attempts, and I think he worked out really great, and there's a very clear improvement from the past few months into the Origin series. So I think that might be just what they need to take over the team of Unicorns of Love if they win their match versus Fast Pay Wildcats, that is.
And it'd be rude not to check out the lower bracket as well. So let's go and pull that one up. Mortal Shot, Dark Passage, Futbolist, and BKRG Esports. Now, Futbolist was definitely one that was called out in a couple of our videos yesterday as being a team to look out for.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I thought Futbolist would be actually one of the few teams to make it pretty far into the higher bracket, and unfortunately they fell down in their very first few attempts. So Futbolist, I'm expecting to be the best team out of the lower bracket. I think the BK Rogue, Dark Passage, and also Mortal Shot have very little up against Futbolist. This team has been participating in community-run tournaments for the past few months now, and I'm especially looking at Elpis and Rekner. I think they're my two favorite players of the team of Futbolist, so I expect to see them in the finals, hopefully, to face off up against one of the likes of maybe Trovo Nova or even Unicorns of Love.
Let's go ahead and pull up Group A as well, our final kind of stop on this tour. And there's some unexpected results. Max, I want you to just quickly run down for me. Team Queso versus Game Lord. What's going on there?
This is a really weird one. Game Lord was expecting to be one of the top teams. At least we thought they were going to encounter the likes of Tribe. Very clearly, we thought that was going to be the semifinals at the very end. But no. Team Queso able to actually take their match versus Game Lord is very surprising because Team Queso is a team that I always had a few issues with. And the main factor is they are very inconsistent. They'll beat a team in a grand finals 3-2. It will happen versus the old roster of Na'Vi just a few months ago. And the tournament after that, they lose it 2-0 in a BO3 series. This is a very inconsistent team, but it goes to show that Team Queso, when they're on their A game, they can take down the best teams in the region. And in this game, it was the likes of Game Lord.
I actually don't think Team Queso, as of late, have been that inconsistent, though. I genuinely think that Team Queso right now are one of the biggest threats in this group. I think between them and Tribe, if that's the winner brackets final that we end up getting today, which you would expect just based on previous results, although I think Team Future are a little bit sleeper. I think that we are looking at a very intense winners bracket upper final because I think that Team Queso are especially threatening right now, especially from that top side of the map. The Acolyte and Andre duo, they're incredibly good. So I think that's kind of where we've seen a lot of the strength come from this roster. But the big surprise to me is 7 free agents. They've made it to the semifinals of the upper bracket. They kind of like ran through that bottom side of the bracket, and it's been crazy because I don't know much about these guys, and that's kind of what the Origin series is for. Is building up these stories of players and teams that we may not have had much chance to see. And 7 free agents have clearly come very well prepared, very well equipped for the meta, and honestly, I'd love to see them give a good show to Team Queso in that semi-final.
And, you know, the beauty of being called free agents is you're basically advertising an organization to come ahead and pick you up. But let's go and have a look at the lower bracket, see who they've been able to best to get here. Kiernan, we've still got that soft spot for Resolve, as you all know. UK team, Stuart, he's a bit of a lad, that's fine. They're going up against Game Lords. They've got a very hard game that's going to be happening on in the background. We've got Cream Real, Betis, and Team Singularity as well in this lower bracket. But that's a nice little recap for us to check out exactly where we're at right now. What we need to be paying attention to is that, like, these teams have obviously had certain results come in. Game Lord is not really expected to drop down into the lower bracket. Yes, we can talk about whether Team Queso are performing. They're inconsistent. But at the end of the day, before we've moved into the tournament itself, we spoke to the teams about how they're gauging their opponents. And you can see why this result is unexpected, not just for us, but for a lot of players. Check out what the teams thought about their opponents coming into this month.
I think that our biggest opponent will be Game Lord. They are just a good team. They put a lot of pressure.
Game Lord, maybe Tribe and Queso. Yes, these 3 are the best, I think.
In Europe, I think Game Lord is really strong. From Spain, Team Queso and Betis. I think on Spain we have a good level, and in Europe, there are 3 4 teams with good level, but not more.
Definitely the strongest teams in the tournament are Gamelord and Tribe Gaming. Will definitely be keeping an eye on them.
There are definitely two teams that will probably go to the finals, or obviously if they beat us somehow. Is the Tribe Gaming and the Gamelords.
That would be the opponent we're meeting first right now, Gamelord. Unfortunately, we are meeting them already the first match.
It will be a good challenge for us to beat them, but I think we can do it.
If we do win our first 2 games, then I believe we'll face Gamelord in the semi-finals, so that could be definitely one to look out for. But I'm hoping that we can put up an upset and definitely take at least a game off them.
We are feeling good, and we expect to win it. Will be easy until we meet Tribe and in the final, and then we will have to see.
All right, well, there's a good assessment of the teams. And we said already Gamelord being touted as one of the best ones in the lower bracket. They're definitely not out of this yet because we got that double elim. Still got a long way to go, though.
Yeah, I think Gamelord came into this tournament off the back of a lot of really good community wins, as well as we say B-tier level tournament wins. So they clearly have come into this, I think, with the most weight behind their name in terms of tournament victories. And talking to a lot of people, Gamelord run a very specific style. Quantum, if you know him, he has been playing a lot of AP carries in the bot lane right now. In fact, 2 hours before this broadcast started, he played Orianna, and I was trying to support him Orianna in solo queue, and he ran it down. Thanks, Quantum. No, he didn't really. It was fine. But they have a very specific style of play, and it's quite unique. It's a little different to what a lot of the other teams are running. They were very big proponents of the Seraphine Sona meta, which came into Europe, and they were kind of one of the teams that really pioneered that and ran that pretty consistently. It does seem that other teams have started to adapt, though, and that maybe has put more pressure onto Gamelord, and maybe Gamelord are struggling to adapt out of that style of play, especially when certain things get banned away from them.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk with their coach/analyst, Dooms, and he did mention that they definitely know that they completely messed up in their last match that actually pushed them down into the losers bracket. So they're coming into day 2 with a completely different mindset, and I think that they are a lot more prepared now. They had a big voice chat to prepare for their matches of today. So we can expect big things from them, but it's definitely still a little bit shaky entering the Origin series itself.
Keenan, you've had us a few instances of a little bit of molding here and there. Just very quickly, can we go over what really irked you yesterday? Something to do with Rakan?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that really stressed me out yesterday, but one of the biggest ones was that for some reason teams are picking Rakan into tanks. Like, picking Rakan into tanks is a big old no-no, especially into opposing tank support like Braum, Alistair, those kind of things. Rakan does not do well into tanks. The only reason that I could see Rakan would be valuable to a team versus tanks is you maybe want to snowball it off the first Drake fight where these big resistances haven't been picked up and you can actually make something work. But I was molding over Rakan picks yesterday. Please don't pick Rakan into tanks. Even if you have Xayah, please don't pick Rakan into tanks.
Well, let's see if there's going to be any instances for you to mold, because we're going to pull up our schedule, take a look at what is going to be happening throughout the night. Now, I know there's a lot of TBD. We can confirm to you that the plan is to bring you upper bracket finals from groups A, B, and C tonight. We're going to kick off with the upper bracket final of Group C, which is Sunlight Team versus Cut Esports. So let's go ahead and get ready to jump into game number 1. Well, here you have it, lads. Game number 1, upper bracket final of Group C. Cut Esports, we did pay a very quick visit to yesterday. And just to briefly touch on that one, yes, it did end up being a match at which they got their 2-0 maps via non-gameplay related reasons. But I think this is just like the nature of open competition. It's something that the players aren't really used to the competitive environment. And these mistakes can kind of happen for, I think it was GK Esports in this instance. They're in the lower bracket. They would have learned their lesson. Let's hope they can progress and maybe give Cut Esports a rematch at some point.
Yeah, there's clearly going to be teething issues. I think when it comes to getting yourself used to competitive play. For a lot of teams and a lot of players, this may be the first tournament they've ever played in, B, the first kind of A-tier tournament that they've ever played in as well. So there's a lot of expectations of the players, a lot of things you have to learn the ropes. So we're expecting some hiccups on day 1, and hopefully now the players will feel a little bit more eased into it and understanding how these things run.
Yeah, and also talking about Cut, especially because what happened yesterday, we couldn't quite see what they played, but they had some pretty interesting picks coming their way also. We saw some Leona at some point. We haven't seen too much of that champion. I personally enjoy it. I know you're maybe not the biggest advocate for it, Scoundrel, but I think the champion, given the right situation, is pretty decent.
I don't mind it. I don't mind. I don't mind it. I don't mind Leona. She's a little too single target focused for me.
Yeah, that's the issue. That's the main issue. She's got a cool skin now too. So I'll play it even more now. It looks pretty sick with the pool party skin. It's like the beach episode you have every anime, but now it's in Origin series. So I'm pretty ready for the matches on Leona potentially.
Right then. Well, we're going to jump into pick and ban. I'll leave you two lads to it. Let's get into the first game of the night.
Let's get right into it. Thank you very much, Trid. We're going to be in the pick and bans, but no Trid here anymore. It's just me and Xscoundrel to take you through the pick and ban phase. And there you go. It's going to be Sunlight team. They're going to be right onto the blue side, and Kurt are going to be red side. So we got a few picks and bans that we saw come through pretty heavily yesterday. I'm mainly thinking back to the ADC position. Zaya was pretty common. The likes of also Kai'Sa, but we didn't see too much Ezreal, very surprisingly so, on the broadcasted matches at least. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more Ezreal potentially throughout today.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. A lot of the bans that came through were things like the Garen, the things like the Ziggs, some of what we would consider like OP picks in the meta right now. Braum has been a relatively solid ban. I think Braum does stand out as one of the best supports in the meta. He's got very heavy roam potential, can influence the game really nicely. Like, your passive is just absolutely broken in some of these early skirmishes. So, I'm not surprised to see Braum taken away. I think Camille is a great flex pick, although banning it on blue side to me does indicate that you're not comfortable playing it, because Camille was a very popular blue first side pick because of the flexibility that particular pick offers you. And then the Darius ban, that is interesting. I guess if you're not comfortable playing against Darius, he can be quite snowbally, and also if you're not comfortable playing him against lane, he can be quite a nuisance. But I think that's fair.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like a target ban, especially because yesterday Sunlight hasn't played any Darius in their two matches. They did win, both being 2-0 actually. So very surprising they decided to go for that ban instead. Maybe a Renekton would have been pretty decent to take away, because that's a pick that Sunlight tend to go towards. But you know what? They're going to go for the first pick of Gragas. Once again, very good. You can flex it everywhere except in the support position. And even then, you could potentially make it work if you really want to. And then Kurt, their first pick is going to be with the Olaf. So really, I'm thinking here with your likes of an Olaf, you'll potentially want to pair it with the... Okay, there you go. I was going to mention the Lulu. Lulu Olaf is pretty popular. We saw it, I think, once or twice already. And the pick from those two champions together is pretty popular. So yeah, two first pickups. It's kind of already showing your cards, though, for Cut. So Sunlight might come into this with a little bit of a game plan and a response to deal with the Olaf Lulu combo.
Yeah, I think the Olaf Lulu is like really strong in like early Baron skirmishes. Sorry, Dragon skirmishes. Like, you have a very, very strong combo at level 5 already, and really, especially if Olaf comes into that Dragon fight with the majority of his Triforce, or even with a Black Cleaver, like, he's going to have a big item spike to work with at that point. This is where I don't mind the Rakan, by the way. You're playing into a Lulu, so you're playing into an Enchanter, so the Rakan gets a bit of value with that engage potential. You're not playing into a ridiculous number of tanks, although clearly, the Garen comes through, so that makes it a little more awkward for you. But regardless, like, this is a better thought process for the Rakan pickup. It does indicate to me that maybe you're thinking about a Xayah pick, because Rakan generally is not considered like ridiculous high tier without the Xayah. But the Renekton coming through is interesting. Obviously, we've seen a lot of that in the Origin series. Garen is, in my opinion, one of the best Baron laners in the game right now. And I'm almost certain this Corki is going to be AD carry, because that is something that we've seen, especially when you have like a heavy AD influence in the map, like the AD jungle and the AD top. Like, Corki kind of balances out your damage profile a little bit. It's something that Southeast Asian teams do a lot, and so seeing Corki flex down bot would not be surprising.
Yeah, because if you were trying to pick it potentially mid, they could have gone for Galio instead, and they could just still been able to tank it up pretty nicely into the later stages. Varus has been actually a very popular pick, Xscoundrel, throughout Group A, B, and C, as it has been picked a pretty significant amount. Paired up with the Yasuo, not really an insane combo on itself, but just the engage potential just enables such a good dive for the Yasuo itself, so I do like to see that coming on through. And then Ahri coming in again. So we did see it play yesterday, Xscoundrel. We were not really sold on the potential. I'm hoping to see more roam-focused plays around this Ahri. I still believe in the Ahri powerhouse. I still believe it can become a reality. But this is a really interesting composition. But the Renekton 2, this is the main pick, I'm going to say, that allowed Sunlight to make it this far in the winner bracket. So it worked out great for them yesterday. Took 2 series 2-0. Seemed like they're pretty strong on that champion. So let's see if that's going to be, once again, paying off in their matchup versus Cut.
Yeah, I think Renekton into Garen, though, it is a bit of a tough matchup on the top side of the map. You have to be very careful about when you choose to go for engages. Like, Garen, if he's just playing around his grasp stacks, can really abuse that matchup hard, especially because you have your silence, and Renekton is a very kind of ability-focused AD carry. So, like, or physical damage carry, like, he really relies on his abilities to be effective. So just, keep an eye on that particular matchup. But I think it's a matchup that Garen does find success in. the thing that I'm looking for is like towards the big team fights. I'm obviously looking for Rakan setups for the Yasuo. You do have a really good team fight here. You have the Varus into the Rakan engage, and then you're obviously looking for the knockups to set the Yasuo up, or you can just use the Gragas cast to isolate someone and knock them up as well. So you do have a pretty strong way to set this Yasuo up, which is always a really good thing to pair up when you have that Yasuo. But I just think that you have a very standard like Olaf comp with two incredibly safe carries in the form of Corki and Ahri, and then a big beefy frontline of Garen to kind of to back you up. So I think that you've got a very strong skirmishing early Dragonflight combo from Cut, and that's kind of what I'm favoring here. I think it's just easier to execute on here, Max.
I agree in general, but here we go, ladies and gents. We're going to be back onto the Rift for day 2 of the Origin Series for Europe, and it's going to be Sunlight Team versus Cut Esports to see which will be the ones to move on to the next stage in the higher bracket so far. But we talked about this composition, what could be interesting. I fully agree with what you mentioned there, Scandal, especially with the engage from the Rakan that's going to be played by Leto. Pop the quickness into a Chain of Corruption from Mads. I think it's a really strong synergy if the communication and the team play is there. We're hoping to. I mean, they made it already. We talked about it, right? They got himself 2 games they won, 2-0 Shin. There's definitely something working for the team so far. So I'm intrigued to see what's going to be their first broadcast game is going to actually look like. As they got the lane swap very early on. It's going to be 69 and Timos versus Walid in the top side.
So the lane swap's a very interesting thing for Cut to initiate here. Maybe they're just not confident into that Renekton matchup. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm very happy to play Garen into Renekton most of the time, but it's very interesting that we see this lane swap come through. Especially interesting as we don't see a blue side invade coming through from the Olaf either. Boss maybe could have gone for a blue side invade onto the Gragas. You have natural priority with the Ahri mid. You're going to have priority top lane as well. I would have loved to have seen a vertical jungle split and see the Olaf really abuse the fact that he's going to have massive top lane priority this game. I'm a little confused. Obviously, Riot did make a change. Please don't die to blue buff. Please don't die to blue buff. Oh my gosh.
Nah, he's fine.
Oh my gosh. I was ready. I was ready to just throw my towel out and yeah. I think Riot did make some changes a couple of patches ago. They increased the armor of the top lane tier 1 to kind of discourage lane swap metas. So Garen does have to be a little careful here. He has to be able to make sure he's clearing that wave consistently. Otherwise, it could prove an issue where they end up losing that bot lane tier 1 much easier than they're able to take the top lane tier 1 here for Cut. But a great flash engage.
Yeah, flash body slam nicely onto Timos. Instantly going to be forcing the flash out as a response. Himself, he also extra smite. Not going to get anything too much. We'll be having to go for the heal onto the honey fruit. There was an attempt, but not happening too quickly as they are playing the enchanted support. So a little bit harder to gank from time to time. Oh, Leto, bottom side. That's going to be the Ragnarok used pretty early on. So Baby's going to try and join the party too. As a 2v2 currently happening. Nice pokes coming out from Mads. And Boss will have to leave that one. Not able to get too much after that invade.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Joe make a roam down towards that bottom side of the map. It would be a good way to maybe threaten not in a tower dive. Yeah. I think it's difficult to threaten a tower dive because you've made the lane swap happen. But if you're just a charm in that situation, you're a level 5 Olaf versus a level 3 Rakan. Like if you just had a charm on top of whatever happened in that situation, you might have been able to pick up a kill. But he is going for a repeat gank on this bottom side of the map.
Yeah, doesn't have the Ragnarok anymore. You got to be careful. And they're getting shrunk down pretty heavily. Mads is just basic attacking them most of the time with an extra little bit of a snipe. Gets the slow on the AoE. And the Ahri finally is going to roam. We talked about it, right? You want to hit that. Ahri is good if you roam efficiently and early game too. Trying to go for the charm. Misses it. I mean, that's not going to work. Instantly going to have to use that Fox to reposition, get himself back. And he's re-engaging. A little bit more poke coming his way back and forth. Yeah, that is not really how you play. Going to go for the flash forward. And he's going to throw his life away. What was that flash, Mads? That was indeed truly mad, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I think either way, even if you make that flash, the best you get is a 1-for-1 trade overall. Right? I think you die at the end of that. So I think the best you get is a 1-for-1 trade. It was very aggressive. Like, I was just about to praise the Sunlight bot lane. Like, I was just about to go all in on just how these guys have managed to deal with, 3 ganks, essentially. Great flash. I mean, great flash from Joe. Joe outplayed that with a really nice flash, very last minute, but it would have been a 1-for-1 trade at best at the end of the day.
Hey, Scoundrel, just going to say, no. Ahri meta. Okay, that was maybe not the best example, but still, I think Ahri can be played. Just, you got to hit those charms from time to time. Back into the mid lane position, though. It's going to be Sniper taken and assaulted down by the Olaf. I'm really surprised, actually. Boss is spamming those ultimates when it's available. Explosive cast. They know he didn't have the ultimate. You're going to be super vulnerable in those positions, and that's going to be the 3-man engage. Now Infernal's up. That's the great time to take it in a 5v4 situation.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's absolutely terrible for Cut at this point in time. You just take the jungler down right before the Infernal. Great wind wall to stop the Ahri coming through.
Trying to go for the quickness, and a little bit of extra charm onto Teemo. 69 trying his best to dash away, and it will be secured by Apollo. That's an extra 6% damage increase thanks to that Infernal buff. And they're going to be moving away. Not having to take the fight, they just get what they need. That's the Drake, and they're done.
And that's the Infernal Drake picked up now, Max, for free, because at the end of the day, Boss made a mistake. Boss just got caught out, and he did have the ultimate available, didn't have the opportunity to use it quickly enough, and got caught by the Yasuo. I'm not really sure. Oh, he just used the ultimate, right?
He used it before, and that's why he went for the explosive cast. Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt a little bit awkward to kind of make a play. If I'm ever setting up for an Infernal Drake, I always like to try and set up around bot lane. It's a safer area to look for a gank. You have the support of your Lulu there, especially, and I think just it was a very risky gank to go for without vision. Again, Boss going in here.
He's continuously farming. I mean, you want to get some CS if you want to get yourself ahead. He's going to flash on over, does get himself a nice little bit of an engage. The Ashes do come on down. Polo will be left stranded away. Snipes coming out from distance from Mad. Sniper wants to join the party in this scenario. You're not going to go any further. I'm surprised, though, the Boss is continuously looking for a fight and spamming those ultis. But in that case, it worked out. But the 2 cases before that, it didn't quite go that way.
He has been looking to put a lot of pressure on this bottom side of the map. I think you want to play to the lane that you have the Lulu in. The thing about the Olaf is that you do kind of want setup. So you need someone to help you set you up for these ganks. And Lulu is a good way of just really kind of like utilizing Olaf's strengths to his very best ability. And I'm glad they went for it. He's going to get caught out though here. Didn't have the ultimate available.
I gotta say, I'm really happy with how Sunlight, every single time, they're paying so close attention to the Ragnarok cooldown. When they're nursing it up, they're straight going for the body slam, explosive cast. They got the CC to follow up thanks to the Yasuo. Also, even potentially the Chain of Corruption, if needed be later on down the line. I think they're being very aware of what's happening on Cut side, and that's something that's surprising me very heavily for Sunlight team. So hopefully they can keep it up, as now the Herald is up. So a top side fight could be happening fairly soon in Scoundrel.
I think you've got to be very careful, though. Corki package is available, so clearly you have to be very careful about trying to play around neutral objectives when the Corki package is ready to go, because that is a huge teamfight tool that you can use in your favor, either for zoning or knocking people out of the way, or even just straight up engaging a fight. And it looks like with that Corki package in tow, we are going to see Cut go for this Rift Herald, but they're low HP bars right now. Here comes the ultimate.
Chain of Corruption on exactly the target you want. They're going to try and ult away with a Valkyrie. The Herald will be secured actually by the Corki. That's 69 securing him. He's in the pit, taking a 1v1 versus Mads, as the rest of the team is now getting pushed away from the jungle. That's Cut losing an extra 3 players right there, and only 1 going down. That's will lead the Renekton transform in a handy bag. And not going to be looking too great, as they're looking for even more now. They're going to avoid those backdoors, and he still has himself the explosive cast, get himself 1, and he's looking for the double into the body slam. Will get spin to win by Baby, but the snipe comes in last second, and that is now Sunlight taking a very clear lead in this game.
If they can get this tier 1 tower as well, this is a huge win for Sunlight off the back of the Rift Herald. That is a first tower of the game. You lost the Herald, but at the end of the day, as I've talked about many times before, best case scenario for you in a lot of instances is going to be first tower off the back of a Rift Herald. So you've now got that first tower to kind of negate the power of that Rift Herald pickup. And with Infernal Dragon already gone, like that Rift Herald to create priority is not exactly going to be a huge deal around the Ocean Dragon for the next one. Again, there isn't much to analyze here, apart from the fact that we were looking at a very risky Rift Herald take with a super low HP bars of Cut all across the board. So it was a relatively easy engage for Sunlight off the back of that. And now they have a lot of item spikes coming into this Drake fight. And these item spikes are going to be very useful for them. You've got the Lichbane for the Gragas. You've got the Black Cleaver into Vamp Scepter. The Vamp Scepter being really important for the Renekton. We're seeing an AP Nash's Tooth Varus build, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is a very, very strong teamfight tool. Has a lot of burst damage, especially if you could just hit your ultimate and one other skill. So we'll see how this goes.
Oh, instantly sniped away. That's going to be a great engage onto the Ragnarok, though. Extremely low HP. The teleports will coming through, and he gets himself to the Honey Fruit in time to not lose his life. There's re-engage time. Nice little bit of quickness. The CC is big. Explosive cast going to separate the entirety from Cut, and they have 2 players completely stranded in the jungle, and that's going to be the 2 kills going in favor of Mads. Those explosive casts are decisive in most of these fights.
Yeah, honestly, really, that wasn't the best. I mean, he gets the kill.
It works.
He gets the kill. End of the day, if it works, it isn't stupid. Watch this, though. Oh, my word.
Wow.
AP Varus. So AP Varus is not massively strong in a vacuum, but if you put him into the right team comp, he definitely has merit. The thing that you need for AP Varus to work properly is you just need to hit your ultimate. You build up those passive stacks, and then the majority of your damage comes from building up those passive stacks and proccing them. Otherwise, you're not really dealing a significant amount of damage. But obviously, your ultimate, it buys a lot of free stacks for you. And in that fight, it was so nice. They used the Varus ultimate, and then once people got stunned up, they were able to use the Gragas cask to isolate and group them up, and then allowed the Varus to get multiple procs of his passive stacks, which allowed him to, or his blight stacks, which allowed him to just get a huge amount of percentage HP damage. Let's watch here. Fair enough, you get one kill as the Olaf. It looks a little bit doomed, especially as the Garen's coming in. They trade 1-for-1 overall, but you're taking a huge amount of HP, especially as the Garen comes back into this fight. But watch this Varus ultimate.
That's
isolate. They get stunned up, they're all in the line, and you have 3 stacks, 3 blight stacks already built up for the AP Varus, and he's able to burst their HP down.
It was a really good play. The explosive cask able to just separate the entirety of the team. You're not going to be able to assist each another in those kind of situations. So yeah, it's good execution. I'm really liking how Apollo's playing it. But he's also got himself now a Proto Belt. So he's got Proto Belt, Flash into the body slam, explosive cask. You know your Ragnarok is not going to be used in time. He does pop out at the end, but man, he's doing so much. He's chunking them down heavily for Sunlight team. Though they're still looking for the re-engage onto Teemos and also Cut 69. Joe's going to be there to try and back it up. But unfortunately, even if Joe hits those charms, they're just so beefy on that front line. It's really hard for him to beat and find the impact he's looking for. It's getting a little bit of an off-angle onto Leto. That's a chain of corruption. The AP damage is just way too high, and the body slam will be there to secure the frag. Trying to jump away with the Valkyrie, having to flash away. He knows that's not going to work out, and Teemos is just way too squishy as a support. They're looking for even more Mads. If you hit one more snipe, that's a kill. The body slam secures it. That is, once again, a dominant performance from Apollo. Sure, he dies, but that's still another huge pickup for Sunlight.
Yeah, really, really big pickup for Sunlight. What's really interesting to me, though, Max, is that despite the scoreline of 17-8, they're only about 3k gold in the lead right now, which is not a ridiculous gold lead to be working with. I think this is going to be a little bit of an issue, though. Nice flashing. Oh, my word.
Oh, no.
Olaf flashes in. Huge play from Boss. The only problem that I think they're going to get out of this is that unfortunately can't convert it into anything meaningful. It was a really nice play, but you would love to have got something off the map. Maybe pings towards Baron, but the Baron play feels a little risky, especially with a very low HP Olaf right now.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful about that one. Though he's going to get himself the honey fruits, it could facilitate his pick onto the objective. Though they definitely know that this is something that's currently happening on the Rift. Sunlight going to try and best get the information. Leto going to try and clear out some vision with that sweeper, though the Baron's going extremely low, now down to 3,500. Can they get himself to secure last second? He steals it away! What a pick coming out from Sunlight, though. Cut. They're going to try and make sure that not as many players get that Baron buff. They need to kill as many players as they possibly can. Sniper goes golden in the midst of this fight, goes for the ulti 2 last second, but the charm is big to disable his potential in that fight. As now it's re-engage time. Mads, though, he's got the Baron buff. I'm surprised they want to take the fight that far, keep the Baron buff, and use it for later use.
Yeah, again, I understand why they went for it. I mean, we still have a Renekton going in with the stun. Wow. Picks up a second kill. Renekton's so strong right now. Looks like there's a 1v1 happening between the Varus and the Olaf. Again, Olaf comes out on top here. Maybe Waleed's able to get the kill back. Will be able to. Killing spree for the Renekton. Bit of a mess right here. Again, it was a risky Baron to go for. I think they were so close to securing it, but unfortunately they went down to the straight jungle flip in terms of smite fights. And it just looked like Apollo came out on top of that. Apollo's been pretty standout for Sunlight, honestly. We'll take a look back here again, trying to see. Yeah, he just smited it. Just really, really nice play. Dies, but at the end of the day, you've just denied a huge amount of gold swing and also a potential way to kind of get a Baron power play and bring yourself back into this game. Really lovely play. At the end of the day, this fight beyond this is just Renekton cleaning up. Mads not able to find a good opportunity to use his ultimate there, so didn't quite find the engage. Renekton's super strong, though. Got really fed off that team fight. Gone for the Black Cleaver, Blade of the Ruin King build, which is this very damage-heavy Renekton build that we're seeing populate the meta right now.
Oh, he's really trying for those explosive casts from time to time. But you know what? Pushes them away. They get himself the first mid lane tower. That's a great pickup. Going to allow them to get a little bit more control in the enemy side jungle of Cut. But I still think that fight was a little bit overzealous after the Baron. They could have had 3 Baron buffs instead of having one alone on Waleed. They could have maybe done a 2-lane push at the same time, or even a 1-3-1 if they really wanted to push it. I think it could have been a little bit harder. They could have given it a fair try, but here you go. Going straight for this Drake now. It's going to be Cloud. Get that extra zoom speed. Maybe just zoom around the map a little bit more. Mid's getting pushed pretty heavily by Joe, but that's going to be so quickly taken down by the side of Sunlight. Now they're going to be looking for more opportunities, but not really using Waleed with a Baron buff, which I would have initially liked to see coming out from him.
Yeah, they haven't really found many good opportunities to use that Baron buff right now. We are still looking at like tier 1, tier 2 turrets. They're going to pick off the Olaf just about at the end here, which is a huge play, as that's now allow them to push down this side lane. Still, again, I have to be honest, not a huge gold lead in favor of Sunlight Esports right now, despite seemingly coming out on top in all of these fights. And you do have to worry a little bit about the scaling of the Corki and the Garen. Those are two picks that could potentially come back to bite you as this game progresses.
The main reason for that actually is back to the Baron fight, is not only did they lose some Baron buffs for no reason, they actually had two players who were in pretty good position, especially Sniper and the one that I'm mainly thinking of, Mads, that had a pretty decent bounty on his head. They died, and they gave actually some really significant extra gold because of those bounties. I think we had about 5,000 gold lead at that point, and it just got reduced to nothing after the Baron fight. So definitely, it hasn't worked out. But you know what? The steal is still great, but it could have been even better if they didn't go the extra length to try and go for the fight.
I also just think from what I've been seeing, Cut have been able to farm way more effectively. Like, I've seen way more jungle camps being prioritized and being taken down. They have been much better at giving gold from their lanes over to their carries rather than just kind of like letting their carries float across the map aimlessly looking for team fights. But one thing that I do really like about the way that Sunlight are playing these fights is that they're being super aggressive, very proactive with their engages, which is making it difficult for Olaf to get the right setup in these team fights. You know, Olaf is constantly having to Ragnarok because he's getting caught out by an explosive cast or getting knocked up. Rather than using the Ragnarok aggressively, he's immediately using it to peel away from the team. And that's actually not the way that you want to be playing this. Nice knock-up, though.
Oh, the knock-up in the Granite just with the triple quickness, the charm. They get all the damage they need. This might be the game closure kind of moment if they can get a huge push in mid currently and get some inhib towers. Though Boss and also Bab is going to be way too deep into this one. Gets smited away with the Demacian Justice. They're trying to reverse this fight. They're a little bit too deep and maybe a little bit too close to the base, but now they take down most of the damage dealers of Cut, so they can easily move back away from that fight. Good initiation, and then they get clapped back a little bit by the likes especially of Boss and Baby at the end.
I think you're actually also seeing one of the drawbacks of the AP Varus here. If this was a traditional AD carry with a bit more consistent damage output that didn't rely on building stacks and then using them to sort of burst the HP down of their opponents, that would have been a clean fight. That would have been an absolutely clean fight coming out from Sunlight. Lovely knock-up, though. That's the setup that you want as a Yasuo going into the engage, but too many shields, too many barriers. And then just stepped a little too far here for Sunlight as the flank came through from those big beefy tanks, and Garen doing his press ultimate to have skill button. Baby was able to get a bit of a bite back in that fight. Looking at the Varus build, though, I thought maybe he might be going Nash's Tooth into like a traditional on-hit build, but this is just full AP Varus. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it isn't bad, but it just requires the right setup in team fights. And I do genuinely feel if you just had a normal AD carry build, if you'd just gone for a traditional Varus build, the popular one being the Manamune into full lethality build now, you would be much more decisive in some of these fights because you're now relying on Sniper and Waleed to be your consistent damage output. But because you have such a hypermobile and safe team on Cut, especially with this big beefy front line as well, it is proving a little difficult. But a nice flank coming out from Sunlight is going to leave Cut scrambling.
Really strong map awareness right now. Another Grand Entrance. Teleport's going to be a little bit late, and because of that, he's going to be potentially surrounded, but that's not going to be the focus. I mean, he's really tanky. They don't want to focus him down. Goes golden for a few seconds there. He's going to have to move away. The Chain of Corruption, get himself some decent CC on Babi, but not the rest of the team. Ragnarok away. Not going to be up anymore for the likes of Boss. They all have to leave this lane, but they're too far. They're too deep. They're too in trouble right now. As Sunlight pick themselves, potentially the ace, only 6-9 will be left up and going. They turret dive it, and I think they might be able to find himself an extra bunch of objectives off the back of this fight.
Yeah, I think they should be able to go for Baron at the very, very least. They obviously have the Elder up as well, so they essentially have the pick of the litter when it comes to objectives on the map. That was a huge decisive fight, and it was just an overextension from Corki and Olaf. You didn't have the vision to compensate in the river. No idea why you were that far pushed up without the proper vision around your blue side jungle. And there was a beautiful collapse coming out from Sunlight. And again, you're seeing it. This is the back end of the fight. They get a good setup onto the front line. Unfortunately, at this point, you're already a man down, and if Ahri is gone, a lot of your team fight control is gone. A lot of your ability to have any kind of impact beyond just having Corki being threatened is kind of dissipated. And honestly, that was just a really good rotation, a good pick onto Ahri, who is having, despite being 5-4-5, having a bit of a rough one right now for Cut Esports.
Yeah, a little bit. Is that a dig on me also? Because
no, it's not a dig on me. No dig.
No. But yeah, it's definitely not working. I was expecting maybe more rotations in the early game, and it hasn't been really going that way just now. So now, I mean, 18 minutes.
difficult to make rotations in the early game versus a lane swap because you don't have traditional paths that you can take as an Ahri. Like as an Ahri in solo queue, almost all the time you'll just be looking for a bot lane to gank. You know, get into a 2v2, you turn the tides into a 3v2. But if you roam top, like you've got to look for a tower dive most of the time, and that can be a little risky, especially if the enemy jungler is kind of like hovering by. So there weren't many really good traditional roaming options for Ahri in this game, and I think because the lane swap kind of threw the game into kilter, then we saw re-swaps back, and the laning phase just got cut short very quickly, honestly.
Yeah, we saw some fights break pretty early. You got to be careful though. The Chum on a pretty decent target. The Varus, if you can take him down, that will be absolutely amazing. Has to go golden last second. Leto ready to re-engage with a grand entrance. The first kill will be coming down on the likes of 6ix9ine, and the entirety of the team trying to move away from that fight. But Yasuo, he wants a piece of this pie. Sniper gets the tornado, gets the extra knockups, and CC is going to be big. But you still have the Ragnarok up and available for this Olaf, and Boss will still be cut short at the very end of that fight. Topside, it's a mini 1v1 happening between Waleed and also the likes of Baby. But still, despite the Damascus Justice, he still has that GA. He's looking extremely comfortable in that 1v1. Even if he goes down, he's going to be brought back to life. And he doesn't even lose his life. They're going to go down on the inhib towers in both top and also in the mid lane position. And they're looking to find closure on this first game of this series for the likes of Sunlight.
Yeah, Sunlight really, really strong. I think realistically played a lot of these early engages a lot better. You saw the power of their kind of the wombo combo between the Rakan and the Yasuo. Admittedly, the AP Varus, even though I really hate the build, it had value in this comp because it provided that setup for the Gragas, for the Renekton. You know, it provided the kind of the initial burst damage and allowed those guys to do the finishing job. And honestly, a lot of it was just cut completely out of position most of the time. Like caught out of position and never grouped up. They never really found a proper 5v5 engage with their team fight. And it was essentially them getting picked off one by one every single time. I just felt that really this was a game where Sunlight punished mistakes more than they were doing anything ridiculously proactive. Because even when they were getting huge teamfight wins, they were still not exactly hugely, in the lead in terms of gold value. So I think for Sunlight, they need to go away and say, well, how do we convert all these ridiculously positive teamfights into actual value on the map? And that's when I think we'll see this team really take off.
I mean, hopefully, I'm mainly thinking back on their last two matches. They won 2-0. Varus and Renekton, they did extremely well. So maybe deciding to ban them away would be the right decision for Cut in the second game of the series. But with that said, that's going to be it for our first game of Day 2 of the Origin series. We'll head on over to a very short break, and then we'll be back on the desk with Trid to break this game down.
All right, a bit of an interesting match there, lads. Maybe not as the cleanest as we expect from these two teams, but I feel as though it still gives us a good idea of how this series is going to go. Now, Kin, something you said to me in the break was just the people getting caught out a little bit too often. It didn't look like everyone was playing to the game plan.
No, I just think for Cut, they need to kind of regroup and say, right, let's think about a few things fundamentally to ensure that we're not giving away stupid leads. Think about your vision control. Make sure if you're losing tier ones, you're putting wards in your own jungle. It's especially important to ensure that if you're going to push up towards the river when you've lost your tier 1 towers, you need to have the support and the vision to allow you to do that. And one of the big fights that they lost was because they just mindlessly pushed their AD carry and their jungler up down that bot lane and got caught out on the rotation. So they just didn't have the vision control necessary. And secondly, it just felt like a lot of these fights, they were waltzing in one by one, and they never really set up for a proper 5v5, which just allowed the skirmish style of Sunlight to really pop off.
Yeah, I think in general, when you're looking at the side of Cut, of course you mentioned a few issues, but I also want to talk about the positive sides, especially that came on through for Sunlight, which especially I think they were just so aware of the map every time. They would see Baby on the Garen be an overstepping in that position. They would see a very clear overstep of the rest of the team, and they would instantly convert it. So I think it's really strong map awareness for Sunlight that enabled them to get really strong performances. So I'm hoping to see that come back in this second game of the series. But I said there's very clear things that Cut need to work and improve on to potentially push this one to a game 3.
All right, Keenan, I want to take us back to something that happened towards the end of the game, around about the 15-minute mark. There was a top lane fight that looked like it was going one way, and then you had a counterattack come in from Cut, I believe, and it just did not go the way they wanted to, and they did not manage to wrestle back control. I was wondering if you could take us through that on the drawing board and just give us a little bit of insight on that.
It illustrates a couple of things here. So the first thing is, if you look at where Cut are currently rotating, blind to this entire area on the map, right? You look at the vision, they've got a ward here for some reason. They've got a ward here and a ward here. So they kind of know what's going on in the river, but they don't know what's going on in their own jungle right now, which is the most important part, which is where this aggressive push from Sunlight came through. Now, obviously, we're going to see a brilliant engage from the Rakan in just a minute, and that shows you how the Rakan and the Yasuo are supposed to set up together. So let's just watch this out. Beautiful knock-up, huge Rakan engage. However, Varus could have cleaned up the fight 100% if he'd just been in position to ulti that. If Varus had ultied that straight away, we might have had a really clean team fight, and it would really have just been game over from that point onwards. But not quite in position on the setup. Varus a little bit too far behind, and you can just see the mobility and the shields coming through that bought enough time to allow Cut to get back into their own base behind their inhibitor turret. And then you're going to see the flank coming in from Garen and from Olaf, and they are still strong skirmishers. They still have a lot of damage potential here, and at the end of the day, I think if you had a traditional AD carry here and you'd kept him safer, you might have actually been able to clean up that re-engage from the tanks. But it did just show you how the Sunlight composition wanted to work, but it also showed you just how difficult it was to really deal with this very high mobility comp that Cut were bringing out, and made that team fights a little bit more awkward, which is why you saw them never really get huge decisive team fights until the end of the game.
Well, for Sunlight team, obviously they pulled themselves ahead in this series. I wanted to jump back quickly to the Varus. Okay, we pointed out was out of position in that one, but AP Varus being ran, I noticed you lads were talking about it on the cast a little bit. Not necessarily the most efficient use of Varus, is it? But it's an interesting build to bring out.
It's not bad, okay? I have a personal dislike for it, but it has value, okay? AP Varus is all about his ultimate. If you don't have his ultimate up, AP Varus is useless. So at the end of the day, like, if you have your ultimate and you get a good setup in the team fight, we saw a really nice setup around the Drake where they comboed it with the explosive cast from the Gragas. No, it's a little bit earlier than this, I think, but this also shows you just how much damage. That was like a quarter of Garen's HP just chunked out immediately by the percentage max health damage that the Blight stacks do from Varus. But it's not, I think it requires team fights to work. It doesn't give you much flexibility in the way that you play your game. And I think if you had like the traditional Varus that's popular elsewhere, which is this poke lethality Varus, you probably would be able to do a lot more work before these fights even started. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it did balance out their damage profile a little bit. They had a lot of AD coming in with the Yasuo, so wait, no, what am I talking about? It made them very AP heavy. Don't worry. But they had the Renekton as well, so it balanced the damage profile a little bit. Regardless, it worked in this team comp, but I genuinely said, I said during the break, I think you could have had any AD carry in place there, and I still think that Sunlight team would have come out on top.
Yeah, I think it could have worked out just fine. But the reason why I found it very interesting too is they get himself the poke, and every single time that you're going to have a target extremely low because of those pokes coming out from Mads on the Varus, you would have the likes of Waleed on Renekton or Polo on also this Gragas who would find opportunities because the targets would be low before the fight really ever started, and they would be straight away seen a Polo going for those explosive tasks on a very valuable target at the time. It works out great, and I think that when you position a champion such as Varus is going to be snipe and create those initiation potential opportunities for the rest of your team, it worked out great, and I think it's down to their synergy. If your team play is not strong, AP Varus doesn't work as good because you don't find the opportunities. There worked out because it did seem like the team play was really on point from start to finish.
All right, well, that's a nice little bookend on our first game. Let's get ready to jump into game number 2, and we can talk a little bit about what they need to do to improve themselves moving into the series. Kenan, you were rudely cut off there. You were going to go on about adaptations. Why don't you jump in here now?
That was going to be the weirdest throw sentence I've ever heard in my live tweet. You baited me. Yeah, I think realistically, it was mostly positional errors. I don't even think the comp was that bad. Like, Olaf Lulu has got a lot of roots in terms of being strong in a competitive sense in Wild Rift. So the Olaf Lulu combos, but because they were constantly being the ones that were on the defensive, because they were constantly being the ones that were being forced back in the engages coming towards them, we saw Ragnarok. I don't even think I ever saw an offensive Ragnarok, barring that flank play that we analyzed in the drawing board segment. Most of the Ragnaroks is because Olaf got isolated and caught out, and he used it defensively almost immediately. And that was the problem. You could never use the comp the way they were designed. It was designed to be used.
Okay, we need Cut to take more control, but I'm going to hand control over to you two as I'm going to disappear while you get into pick and ban.
Thank you very much, Trid. Going back to the Shadow Realm as always. We'll see you later on after this game. We'll see very clearly if Cut can make the reverse sweep happen versus Sunlight Team. It didn't seem like they were looking like the favorites coming into this one, and Sunlight Team definitely set themselves apart very heavily, especially because of how they drafted. And the 2 series they won before this match, we talked about it, right? They got themselves a big focus around the likes of Varus and also Renekton. 2 of the champions they play really well, by the way, Sunlight Team, are both Olaf and Kai'Sa. So I'm intrigued to see if that's something they're going to go towards if Cut decides to ban away a few of the champions that did cause them some pretty big issues. One of those actually being Yasuo, who was doing some pretty significant AD damage in those engages. So they're going to take that one off the board right off the bat.
Yeah, they're banning away the Yasuo. I think they didn't like the kind of the setup that the Yasuo had in those engages. I didn't really feel like Yasuo was the major issue here, but they're going to ban the Yasuo Rakan combo in its entirety. Yeah, it's an interesting set of bans. I think you're opening up the field to a lot more strong S-tier picks right now. Like the Kai'Sa is still open, for instance. That's still, you know, a potential pickup. The Olaf, which hasn't been banned away this time around either. So I think this is a very oddly specific set of bans from Cut, which may come back to bite them at the end of draft phase.
Yeah, I don't think, though, that the bans of Sunlight are weird whatsoever, because very clearly when you look at the past matches of Cut, well, I mean, the one past match, because then we had match 2, there was a little bit of a weird double six fiesta, I would say, but they do typically play a lot of the Akali and the Braum. They were 2 of their favorite champions in the very first matchup the Cut played, so Sunlight seems like they have done a lot of their homework. If not, it's just a very lucky coincidence. As the first pickup from Cut, they're like, you know what, we're gonna yoink your Gragas from that last game. No more explosive casts are going to ruin your entire performances. But now Sunlight, and I said it right, you got 2 of the champions we haven't seen them play in the series that they're really good at performing on is both Kai'Sa and Olaf. And okay, there you go, Kai'Sa, Olaf. They're going to pick both of them back to back. I mean, they're open. You're red side. You can do that. They are comfortable to do so. And seeing how they were strong last game without those 2 picks, it seemed like that they were already looking amazingly favored in the second matchup.
Yeah, no, really, really good pickups for them. Obviously, they feel very comfortable with that Kai'Sa pick, so going to get that on first rotation red side. Picking up the Olaf as well does deny that potential Olaf-Lulu combo that we saw Cut try to facilitate in the previous game. However, seeing a Jinx, I'm almost certain that we're going to get a Lulu on top of this as well, because Jinx-Lulu is a very classic bot lane combo. It's one of the strongest bot lane solo queue combos that you can play to climb elo with. I think it's one of those ones that can really just take over games. Jinx in Wild Rift, you give her 1 kill, and she really just, like, turbo takes over games. So that's, you know, it's a nice little combo to run with her. It's a very classic League of Legends PC combo as well. However, it can be a little bit weak towards that first dragon fight. Sometimes with Jinx, you don't want to fight for the first dragon unless you've already picked up a significant lead. So maybe we see Cut play away from that first objective and give a bit more time for Jinx to scale.
If you want to believe someone that tells you good things about Lulu, Jinx is definitely going to be Xscandal, because he ranked up pretty heavily with those 2 champions for quite some time in ranked.
Season 1, yeah, in season 1 I played a lot. Yeah, me and Stu played a lot of Jinx Lulu in season 1.
There you have it. The Ahri is going to be back on board then for Cut. So we mentioned a few things that we could potentially see improvements on the Ahri. We talked about rotations. You did especially mention Xscandal that because of the lane swaps, it did make it a little bit harder for them to maybe waver around that Ahri and having a rotate in an efficient manner. So hopefully we can see some improvements on that itself. Though Pantheon Twisted Fate, I'm intrigued. And the one thing I'm hoping for the Twisted Fate every time I see it is to use that ultimate, not reactively, but use it preemptively to create a situation where you have the advantage and not use it defensively to try and, you know, mitigate a bad fight that's not going in your favor. So I'm going to be paying very close attention. I'm paying attention to the Leona because I mentioned it. I love this champion. Played from time to time. It's very single target focus. So against this team, it might be a little bit of an issue, but if you can get on Jinx, it's fine.
Not bad. I actually quite like the Leona here because you're pairing this up with a lot of single target CC from like the Pantheon, from the Twisted Fate, and you are really concerned about one target and one target only on Cut Esports. Kill the Jinx. You know, with a Jinx combo, like with a Jinx style of composition, if you kill the Jinx, you're kind of cutting the head off the snake in terms of damage output for this team. So a lot of single target focus, a lot of single target lockdown. I like this from Sunlight because they clearly have that one goal in mind to kind of neuter the composition at the very base level. And I like that a lot. I think they've got the right idea here. Very interesting seeing some Pantheon jungle. I think it's something that has been popping up in the meta recently. Oh, no. That's a very aggressive push.
Gold card into the extra base attack. There's going to be the stun, and that's going to be first blood in just 15 seconds. Actually, less. It was about 13, 14 seconds over to Sunlight team, and they are really looking good. I mean, you've got two champions that can have stun on level 1, so they go straight for the early peak, and first blood already. That's an extra 500 gold coming their way.
Yeah, that's a really, really good start, and I think that to me was very interesting from Boss. You saw them in the brush. I think you knew that they were in the brush, and you kind of walked up I think you were looking for an aggressive ward on the blue buff here. So you were trying to track Apollo's start, or at least you were trying to get an idea about whether Apollo was going red to blue and then maybe looking for an invade later on. The only reason I think you'd ever go for a super deep ward like that as a jungler is if you're looking for a very early invade and you may be looking to cheese them and go for a blue invade while they're trying to do their own blue buff. That would have been my thought process. But hey, he gets punished for it, and aptly so, and now he's going to have to go for a very standard sort of jungle pathing style for himself, heading over towards that blue buff as well. He's gone blue Raptors into red Raptors, maybe into blue here. Has pushed aggressively towards Apollo. Is going to go in.
Yeah, Apollo's going to get that one. I mean, he knows really quickly Apollo will be losing his life to the likes of Boss. I mean, the damage output at any stage of the game from Lee Sin is pretty bonkers, and he really shows that gives him back the advantage. Luckily enough, also, when he died the first time against Scoundrel, he died before the jungle camps actually spawned, so he didn't lose too much time, and he knew he was not going to be at that level disadvantage versus Apollo. He was level 3 versus level 3. It worked out fine, and I think he felt confident on the Lee Sin. The early game is a very big threat, especially against Pantheon, that might struggle in the proper 1v1 skirmish.
Yeah, no, I think that was a really nice play from Boss. A little concerned that Waleed was not there to support him. Also, I think that a lot of that damage could have been mitigated if you were just saving your third ability to try and wait for a potential invade. But I guess you felt pretty confident that you weren't going to see the invade happen just because you kind of put that pressure onto Lee Sin at level 1. But good from Boss to have the confidence to go back. The fact that he made that play does speak to me that he was probably looking for a blue side invade anyway. So he was definitely looking to be aggressive in this matchup and has managed to get back and kind of bring himself back into the game here. Take a look.
I see the third ability. If he procs
he must have already used it. He didn't even try and stun him. So he must have already used that ability. Didn't even try to... I don't think he had flash up at that time because I think he used it on that level 1. And that's a little bit of a payback, I would say, for Boss in this matchup.
A little bit of a vengeance point. Though top side into the mid lane position, that's going to be another time. But Polo's going to be caught out. Joe, not enough mana right now. Does go for the extra ball. Polo will not be hit by that one. Golden card connects, and he gets himself an extra little bit of a deck of cards chucked away. And he actually sniped it down with the spear. What a snipe coming out. And also the Jinx pops the ulti. Oh my god, okay. Got some big snipes happening already. But Ari going to go for the flash, goes for the ignite, and that's going to be the kill confirm.
Wait,
what's happening?
Wait, how did he die? Did he ignite? He must have ignited him. He must have ignited him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the buff right here. That's the buff that Riot gave the ignite. That's nice little payback from Apollo to pick up the kill here. But Riot recently buffed the range of ignite ever so slightly, and right there you're seeing the value of the ranged ignite buff. There you go. Waleed got destroyed by the ranged ignite buff. Nice little snipe. You knew exactly where Lee was going. Like Lee pathed the way that you were expecting. Yeah. Great Jinx ultimate. I think you were like milliseconds away, and that was the buffed ignite range. And that must have been a max range ignite onto Waleed there.
Yeah, also the fact that the super mega death rocket of the Jinx actually connected on 2 targets they were close enough for that AoE to hit is also very well played from 6ix9ine, but I would say very unlucky on the other side. They were just not expecting it, and you can't quite see the ultimates on the minimap that way. But there you go. Dragon is now up. They're going to go and clear some vision with that scuttle, so they're going to have a little bit more priority in that spot. But the resets are happening, and a little bit slow on the side of Snipe on the Olaf.
Yeah, they're not got the great setup here for the Dragon, but obviously you have 2 abilities that can kind of get you into the fight. Here comes the Pantheon.
Yeah, ults his way forward, and he's going to be instantly taken down and polymorphed away in that engage. Going to try and re-engage. They're very slow and low HP for the entirety of Kuz. They're trying to move out of that position. Wild Growth onto the Ari is going to allow him to tank up a lot more of that damage for Joe. At the end, he still get himself the Dragon, but Baby's still really deep. Body slam his way to safety, but the flash will be popped by Sniper, and that's going to be an extra kill confirmed. 6-3, and Sunlight starting to build a little bit of a lead, also in terms of gold.
Yeah, so much CC in this comp. Like, you've got the Leona, who has plenty of CC in her kit, the gold card, the Pantheon stun, like big engage into the Dragon Pit. They were boxed in, and they took out that Jinx very early on. Like, they made her almost irrelevant in that fight super early on here. And I love this conversion as well from Sunlight. Immediately group up bot lane following a good Dragon fight, and they are onto that bot lane tier 1 and picking it up. Like, watch this. Pantheon in. Jinx on the back fight, she can't get out here, and she gets immediately taken low. She should have flashed much earlier than this, I think. I don't even know if she had flash available, but she got taken out instantly. And once that Jinx went down, that teamfight damage was in the bin. Kai'Sa found that a good opportunity to ult over the wall, chase down some of the low HP targets, and a really, really good performance. Yeah, I love the bait.
That was such a good one. Body slam into the grenades, and he's going to be rooted and CC'd up to die. Mid lane, also another fight. We've got a lot of action. This is very aggressive. They don't care if they take himself a 1v2 or 2v2. They'll take the opportunity if possible. Is will dash on forward onto the Sonic Wave. Will not be able to get himself an angle to go for the Dragon's Rage just yet, but bottom side, that's Leona being caught out. I mean, your ADC is dead. I don't know what Leto's doing in that position so far. Gonna look for a sneaky kill onto 6ix9ine. He's going to flash away from that position, but will still die at the very end of that fight. Apollo will join the party sure a little bit late, able to make it another kill coming his way, but he will get picked up by Baby. We're getting continuous action here. I'm really surprised. I'm enjoying it. I mean, I'm play-by-play. I'm going to be breaking up most of these fights. As Waleed will have to move back, where he'll get the heals off of that honey fruit, but... Woo! And, okay, they're trying to refuse to surrender, okay? The morale is not there, it seems.
The morale is low here. I mean, right here, I just saw Sunlight, like, do you remember you might be a bit young, Max, but you got to remember Lemmings. So Sunlight were just like Lemmings there, one after the other, just walking into sure oblivion versus that Gragas. I mean, I love the setup from Babe. Just sits or Babe, just sat there at the bot lane waiting for the bait from the Jinx back to sort of bring Mads into the fight. And then one by one, people just walked into him and kind of let him pick up these kills. He's now 3-1 on Tank Gragas. I think one of the saving graces for Sunlight is that it is Tank Gragas, and obviously will not be playing down the AP Gragas build path, which can give you a lot of one-shot potential. So not exactly the hugest threat to have built a significant gold lead on, but you don't really want to be bolstering that front line significantly, especially with a Jinx, because it makes it a little harder for you to kind of get to that back line and put pressure on the only carry that matters.
Yeah, you also want to try and get excited passive procs after you get an assist or a kill to try and especially create distance away from Leto. We talked about this Leona actually being really valuable potentially in this composition, and she just got buffed up in patch 2.3a, where they increased her range. I think it's from 7.5 to 8 on the Zenith Blade, so it's even easier for her to get access to the likes of Joe, 6ix9ine, also Teemos, if that's going to be a focus depending on the situation. It's working really well, and the setups from Sunlight are really strong, though top side only have a mini 1v1 I currently think happening. Undertow gets the slow. Pantheon ready to join the party. It's going to be a 2-on-1. Explosive card to create that distance, as he did lose his tower earlier. And also the teleport forward from Waleed. Now they're going to hammer down all of their damage onto Baby, and he will be eventually taken down in that fight. Joe's trying his best to move away. And this is actually a really good initiation. Just the entirety of Sunlight wrapping around and finding that opportunity once again, showing how aware of the map they currently are.
Yeah, and this game Sunlight has done a much better job at trying to convert these engages. That's the extended range on the kite. Oh my god, it goes straight in there. That was a risky engage from Leona.
Yeah, the range is so big. I'm really surprised after that buff how big it makes it at the end. Gonna go for another Golden Guard to get the CC. Zenith Blade plus the extra basic attack. That's so much CC, you just can't escape that fight. Baby did teleport in once more. Got himself the body slam potentially up. He's just gonna need the empowered basic attack. I would leave if I were you, Apollo. That is not a fight you want to take.
No, and they actually have created enough of a distraction for this second dragon to be soloed out by Boss, and it doesn't really feel like Sunlight have got this in their view window right now. It looks like it's going to go down. Cloud Dragon's picked up. Apollo does get a kill at the... Oh, he goes back in here.
Oh my god!
Word, Apollo! What a beast!
He gets away with murder right there. Double murder to be exact. Apollo gets away. Be careful. Oh no! He gets taken down. 2 ultimates for the price of 1, and that's going to be 1 extra kill going away off cut. But that asks for a lot of resources for them to get just 1 single kill. 2 ultimates and 2 players dying. Not really a worthy trade.
I mean, it really depends when you're expecting to next use those ultimates, realistically. I think, you know, we've just seen Dragon go down. I'm not expecting a big Clown Fiesta fight over anything else other than a neutral objective. I know Baron's spawning in 60 seconds, but let's be real. Who's going to go for a 10-minute Baron unless you're significantly far ahead? Yeah. Looks like Cut are keeping themselves in the race right now, though. They've kind of narrowed that gold lead down to about 2,000. They are scaling up. I mean, you do have to worry about the Jinx. She's 2, 3, and 6 right now. She has got a decent chunk of gold in her back pocket. If you can get that Jinx to the late game, doesn't matter how good your single target dive and single target CC is, she might just be able to straight up carry, especially because you don't have a traditional tank on the front line. One of the things that Jinx can be a little weak to is just like things like the tank Gragas and the tank Garen, because it's so difficult for her to cut through a very beefy boy on the front line. Take a look at that again. Lovely damage reduction coming out, and that execute potential that your first ability allows really makes up for a lot. Nice stun, brings him in, gets another cut down. A lovely play from the Pantheon.
I'm really surprised too, because they actually had vision in that bush. There was a ward in there, and I thought that maybe would be a little bit aware of there was a potential re-engage to happen, but didn't quite work out at the end. Explosive Cast, I think was expecting a little bit of a follow-up, but this is the very clear difference, I would say, between these two teams. Explosive Cast there was no intention to follow up. It seemed like the communication was lacking in those few seconds. and it didn't quite help out. So one ultimate back on cooldown, already a quarter ready back up, so ready potentially for Baron fight later on down the line if they're ready. But as you said, with 10 minutes in, wouldn't make a lot of sense for that to happen at this stage. That really led to us hitting so many good Zenith Blades and Solar Flares on the back line, and 6ix9ine, despite potentially getting to a stage where he's going to become very scarier, he's struggling to weave out of those engages.
Yeah, I think 6ix9ine is definitely obviously a threat right now, but obviously you do have the Lulu to back you up at this point in time. Maybe trying to catch out a boss here. Single target threat coming down.
Yeah, gonna get himself the Solar Flare, not really doing too much at the very end, though backline engaged from Apollo, and he's getting chunked down so severely, having to flash away, but will still lose his life at the end. Super Mega Death Rocket gonna get himself a little bit of extra damage on top of it, and Cut actually turning this game back in their favor. It really seemed like Jinx is getting herself back in a really strong position, but Sniper was not in that fight whatsoever. It was a proper pick, good map awareness from Cut, and now the Baron being up, but you're low. I would not recommend it. Don't go for it just yet.
No, I think you have to be a little careful, especially versus the Olaf, who is ridiculously fed. And I think that's one of the main problems that we just saw. I mean, Olaf, come on. Yeah, you got a flasher. You have to go for it. I think one of the main problems that we did just see there from Sunlight is that they made the engage onto the Lee Sin, and they burned all of their single target lockdown for the Lee Sin specifically, and that meant that Jinx was able to roam free realistically at the end of the day. You need to save all of that lockdown for the Jinx. The Pantheon!
Oh no! He ults it away, gets it stolen in the last second. Nicely done, Apollo, though, gonna go extremely low. Kurt gonna try and get away from that fight, but the Baron was still secure. Don't go any further. Keep the Baron buff for later use and push it down in the mid lane. You need to get those towers. What? We have so many steal this series. This is nutty. I'm loving it.
And the Rift Herald's just been slowly hard chilling in the bot lane as well. Like just saying, you know what, lads? I've been here the whole time, just doing my work, getting onto these towers. And with that Baron buff, they're going to be able to take loads of resources off the map. I mean, again, with this comp, okay, I'm going to spell it out really, really simply.
Okay.
Save your CC for Jinx. Going all in on the Lee Sin. Yes, if you can burst him instantly, but they did not have the setup. It was very disjointed the way that they approached that team fight. Leona was in a couple of seconds before anybody else had to follow up. And you need Olaf to be in these fights at the very start as well. He's got loads of single target burst potential. So I really want to see Olaf at the start of the fight to follow up on Lito, who is making good engages. Like, Lito is making these solid engages. Yes, okay, maybe not on the right target last time, but the team just needs to be a little more coordinated on their dive. They were very disjointed in the way that they played this originally.
Looking for the golden card. Lee Sin going to move away. That's going to be some nice extra CC. Forces the Dragon Range away. They get one ultimate taken down. Super Mega Death Rocket. Nice attempt, a little bit late on the timing. And that's the extra Drake. Their second Drake. It's actually two Drakes, actually, should I say, over to the side of Cut, and only one in favor of them. But that means the next here is going to be Elder Infernal Drake, and that buff is going to be pretty insane if you can secure it. So that might be the game-closing opportunity for the likes of Sunlight if they can get it later on. But though, top side, Boss taking himself a one-on-one. Has to go golden, but your team is not there to back you up, homie, and that's going to be the end of his life, as now they're looking to capture even more turrets off the back of that Baron buff.
Yeah, and taking out Boss. Boss has been making these weird split push plays all game, especially as the jungler. That's one of those things that you, as the jungler, your job really is to control the map, like control where the vision is, control when your setups for objectives. Like, you need to be the one that drives your team, like herds the sheep to the right locations. And Boss has just been like casually split pushing most of the game on the Lee Sin, which has meant that his team has really been at a loss in terms of having this good setups on objectives. I think both teams have had poor setups for objectives realistically. Let's have a look back at this. This was that Pantheon ult into the pit. I wonder if he went for the smite. Doesn't even smite it. He doesn't even smite the Baron. He gets it with the second part of his ultimate damage. That is pretty disgusting, dude. Like that's just a bit of a fail from Boss, unfortunately. Not able to secure the obviously, look, it can be high pressure situations, but you're gonna be smiting those objectives, especially versus a low damage output that the Pantheon has versus things like the Baron.
Yeah, I was questioning myself. I was like, did he actually get it with the ult? I'm like, I didn't see the animation, so I just expected it to be the ultimate, and it was actually at the end. So great play coming up on Apollo. Perfect time to get himself the Baron at the end, but Apollo topside in a 1v2, having to move away. You can't die in those situations like that because now they got the man advantage. Baron is about to respawn in 30. He will be there a little bit late for sure, but you got to be careful when you have these big objectives on the map.
Yeah, I think just if Mads were to show himself bot lane, this might just be a free Baron for Sunlight. Got to be a little careful. Mads now actually backing here. Now, the good thing that Sunlight in their favor is this tier 1 in the mid lane is still up. Like, this tier 1 tower in the mid lane is still providing a huge amount of map control in their own jungle, making it much more difficult. Now, a Boss has found an engage on the top side. You got to use stasis. Have you got stasis? Oh my gosh.
They're losing everyone one by one. Then a death rotation. Not going to be full team anytime soon. Apollo will have the Grand Starfall available to join up on the Baron fight. Can he contest it? Can he get the steal twice in a row? The odds say that is not very likely. Will give it their best shot for sure. Get himself a nade. Solar Flare on a very valuable target. That's going to be on Teemos especially. And he does stop it again. You must be kidding me. Apollo, how do you do this? You must play the lottery after today. Though, Boss going to go very deep once more. Extremely low. Will get sniped out at the closed off by Mad. And that is going to be Sunlight. Once again, stealing that game out of the grasp of Cup. Baby just gives up. He's like, hey, man, I'm done. How do we get the Baron stolen twice in the same game?
Twice? And they get the push down mid lane. They have the minion wave to work with because of the value of that tier 1 turret in the mid, providing them with constant minion pressure and constant defense against the enemy waves. And this should be the 2-0 game here for Sunlight.
That's going to be taking a GG, and they shall continue their adventure because Group C has less players. That means they make it straight into the grand finals. They're done. They know they're at the very last stage of Group C had to offer, and they make it straight to the grand finals. Our very first grand finalist team that secures their spot in the Origin series. What a good showcase of what Sunlight can do. Still a few things that I think could be worked on, but in general, they showed some really solid performances through and through throughout these 2 matches. And the team they're going to encounter in the grand finals better be prepared because this was some top tier gameplay we saw from these guys.
Yeah, honestly, really, really solid play. I think that their reactive decision making in team fights is super good. Love the way that they play their team fights out. Clearly, a major strength of their team is that ability to play the team fights well. But I think that in future, just think about your objective setups a bit better. Make sure you're there for dragons without having to, instinctually react. Some of these, for instance, in the last game, we just saw Twisted Fate overextending top lane when he knew the rest of the enemy team was around that Baron area. You just got to be a little bit more mindful of the map, increase your vision control, and have better setups around these objectives. And I think it's a team that has a lot of potential coming out from this group.
You know what? That double Baron still got my blood pumping. So myself and Scoundrel, we're going to go for a very short break. And I'm sure Trid will want to break those down a little bit later on. So we'll be back after the break with Trid on the desk to break down this first series of the day.